how does your impression of the industry you were working in compare with your impression of it today?
You have to be sort of good at doing things to do it. Back in the 1970s, I mean, there were no synchromesh boxes or all like that, and you know, it were physically hard work, and you've got to use your brain, and you've no chance, you know. And now they've somehow de-skilled it. They've got 500 horsepower. We used to have 6 brake horsepower at a ton, you know, like sort of 30 ton. They're not really going any faster than what we did with it. Mind you, having said that, what sort of fuel economy has improved a lot since particularly in the 1960s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's been offset a bit by the heavy taxation of fuel?
Well, it's just not profitable to run an haulage business anymore. It's just a waste of time. There's plenty of work out there, but you can't afford to do it. You might as well stop at home, you know. There's just no work that's sort of paying rates. I mean, they did this before in early 1990s when John Major were in. They screwed us and screwed us and screwed us and screwed us and screwed us.
The costs are rising. So what would you say the future holds for the haulage industry in particular? Any industry that relies on fuel, really, but in particular the haulage industry.
Yeah, well, you know, what sort of, without sort of going into too much detail, the whole eco-fascist ideology on fuel taxation is designed to force everybody into the corporate sector. You know, you get like Eddie Stobart and people like that, you know, you'll have to go to them and they'll have a monopoly. Haulage rates will just go through the roof and it'll put everybody out of work because nobody can afford to transport anything anymore. I mean, they're on a free ride at the moment.
So what would you say that first triggered your political interest?
Well, I must admit I got sort of caught up by Tony Blair, and although I probably would have preferred John Smith if he'd have lived, but I thought, well, let's see what they can do, and I really expected they'd do something positive, but you know, it was just a complete, you know, everything was worse than ever after he got in. You know, what sort of didn't fundamentally change anything.
So you were promised change, you believed it, and when you didn't see the change forthcoming, you started to question.
Yeah, well, I thought if you can't beat them, join them. So I actually got round to joining a local Labour Party, and sort of got to a stage where they were sending me a form to fill in to stand as a candidate. But I think most of what I've said just went in one ear and straight out the other. You know, they just weren't picking anything.
So they weren't interested in hearing any common sense?
Oh no way, well, everything's perfect, you know, that sort of. So yeah, it were a waste of time. I actually finally resigned when they wouldn't cut fuel duty at the start of the fuel protests. I thought, well, they just don't get it anymore, you know, it's just totally sort of, I mean, I've got some files somewhere in an old computer that I hope I can get back, that of what I was writing to the Labour Party for like over a year before sort of May 2000 when it stopped. Well, like sort of it basically gave me a nervous breakdown, you know, like sort of everything together, you know, like sort of being disabled but not looking particularly bad. You know, everybody's accusing you of being a fraud, and what sort of, they're going to send somebody around to do you for benefit fraud, and basically what that bird character was like when he went and shot everybody.
Do you think maybe the pressures of society, in particular by the state, are inevitably going to get to some people?
Yeah, but I mean, you can only do whatever you do for so long, you know. I mean, it's not, you know, I mean, I was in what sort of constant working agony. I was racing pigeons at the time, and I shouldn't have been doing it. Like, sort of, it all sort of got too much, and then my back went like sort of wrong in May, just at busiest time for young, like sort of weaning young pigeons and like sort of getting them like sort of friendly and like sort of able to pick them up and stuff, you know, so I didn't have to chase them all over the cabin. I just missed all that, and it just, I thought, well, that's it, I'm better off dead, you know, like, so that was it, attempted suicide. I'm not going into detail, but, you know, I even wrote what people have to do at my funeral and stuff like that out, and, you know, so it all sort of planned, and then it didn't work, and I'm still here, you know, like, sort of.
Would you say that this is something that pharmaceuticals in particular have jumped upon with the, when you look at the statistics, the amount of people that are on antidepressants in the country these days, would you say it's a self-sustaining cycle? The pressures put on society overstress people to the point where they need to go to the pharmaceuticals to have these type of antidepressant pills. Would you say it's almost a self-perpetuating system?
Oh yeah, it's like sort of abject desperation, basically. I mean, you know, what you're supposed to do, you know, what sort of, I mean, now it were alright if you had a kid, you could keep him there on 16 before you had to worry about getting a job, and then by the time they were 16 you'd probably got suffering from depression anyway due to being on benefits for so long. People just can't handle, you know, the sort of financial pressure, and then you get all these people earning like 30, 40 grand a year, moaning like, you know, moaning like sort of about how are these people managing to live on 65 quid a week job seekers allowance or income support, you know, and how do they do it, and how do you live on disability benefits unless they're like sort of 500 quid a week, what they print in the Daily Mail or something like that, you know. It just creates a sort of division within society when we should all be sort of pulling together. You know, all that sort of under attack, we're in a war. I mean, there's like sort of serious journalists talking about it now, you know, what sort of environmentalists are trying to destroy all our power industry and replace it by these stupid wind farms that what sort of work 75% of the time, you know. So you've got this bloke saying, you know, we can no longer expect to have 24/7, 365 sort of power in your homes. So what now? Like sort of, well, it's a good thing because it's green, but all that'll happen is everybody will go out and buy a petrol generator and use that instead, which is far worse. So, no, it's a typical sort of green policy. Well, it's not green, it's eco-fascist, it's not reasonable at all, it doesn't solve anything.
So you're saying the type of debts people get themselves into and the type of situations people are forced into on benefits, would you say it's not an accident then? So it's just a consequence of the way society's gone?
I think it's probably a combination. I mean, when I was sort of growing up, you sort of thought a lot about disability pension and stuff like that in case you hurt yourself, because you knew it was a distinct possibility that you wouldn't get to sort of retirement age without sort of being ill before you got there. And so you'd like, no problem, bloke come round, Combined Insurance Association of America or something like that, I forgot what it was, it's from years back now, but they were selling this policy, like sort of if you're off sick you get paid, I think it was 16 quid a week. Well, I think it was 12 or something like 12 quid a year or something like that, and we all got one. And, you know, when I had my appendix out when I was 18, I sort of got to draw it, you know, like sort of no problem.
So perhaps a little bit of a consequence of society's perception that you need to live for today and forget tomorrow.
Yeah, but you can't do that. It's not so simple, is it? It's the underlying sort of thing is that they've got everybody sort of geared into this sort of consumer sort of addiction, almost. Like you get queues of people waiting to buy latest iPhone or iPad or whatever it is, 4 minute 5 o'clock at morning or whatever. You know, like sort of, oh, you know, what are all these idiots doing? You know, like sort of.
Would you say they do that because they're stupid or because they've been marketed to and they don't know what marketing is because they're not taught to understand when they're being marketed to.
Yeah, I know, but you get people who pay £50 a month Sky subscription. Yeah, they complain about paying, what is it, £12 something a month BBC licence. You know, they'll not pay that, but they'll pay £50 a month to Murdoch for repeats and repeats and repeats. You know, and yeah, people really have got into this sort of 10 bob fat cat mentality. You know, what sort of they give them 50p. And they'll go out and borrow a quid, you know, to sort of put against whatever it is that's sort of alleged to be the thing to have at that particular time.
Do you think the people who are doing this are to blame, or do you think they're being manipulated? Who is to blame?
Coronation Street, Emmerdale, EastEnders.
Sports.
Yeah, soaps.
Distraction then?
Well, it's a fabricated sort of image, isn't it? A life that you're supposed to lead. And I mean, for a start, I don't know that many people that can afford to go out to the pub every night, even if it is for only £1.
Okay, and join us in part 3 for the rest of the interview, where I'll be talking to Gordon about his book, Corporate Nazi.